Jedediah the mountain man responds to Jack's question, "What are the Indians like?" "We call 'em diggers." Now don't get the wrong impression, Jack. The Indians not noble is known to attack. They're backward, uncivilized savages. They can't be taught. They don't have the knack. Their skin is darkly complexioned, dirty brown, dark mahogany, or black. They're degraded, wretched, animal-like, dirty, dull, and ignorant, in fact. Primitive vagabonds, wrapped in rags, the antithesis of our own ideals. Swarming with vermin, unkempt ragatags, they hide in the forest and come out to steal. They hang around the slaughterhouses, begging, then waiting for scraps. When fed, they devour the awful, like hungry wolves in a pack. The women tattoo their bodies, they pierce their noses and ears. The men walk around as naked as sin, or they wear an animal skin. They daub themselves with mud. Like pigs, they are covered with crud. They have a dreadful appearance, Jack. Stringy hair, unkempt, long and black. They possess a peculiar, impish aspect. They are unworthy of our respect. I figures the diggers is like the niggers. We'd be better off without 'em, I spect. The author suspects that we'd be better off without people of Jebediah's ilk. First, because this poem is so dark, I made a background collage of beautiful Native American people to hopefully offset some of the darkness. Second, I used the N-word in my poem to accentuate how demeaning the term digger was. I detest the use of the N-word. That word has only crossed my lips maybe a dozen times in my long lifetime, and I never did use it disparagingly. But it is a word that rhymes with digger. When I wrote the poem, I noticed the rhyme and used it poetically. On further reflection after Tuesday's Zoom class, I have reconsidered its usage in the 1800s. As Professor pointed out, it doesn't really fit as a descriptive adjective that would pop into one's head when seeing Native Americans going about their lives. Yes, the Indians dug for root vegetables occasionally, but so did whites, who ate potatoes, beets, carrots, onions, et al. So I think it was meant as a racial slur specifically because it rhymed with the N-word, which already carried a weight of hate and disdain. The collective mind of white supremacists need only change the first letter N to a D, and there was the same racial epithet. All of the unconscious associations, the negative feelings, the hatred, the loathing, and the fear would immediately attach to the term digger. In the collective imagination of European Americans, Indians were seen as dark, ugly, dirty, animal-like, unspeakably filthy and subhuman. Thus they were treated with contempt and revulsion. This viewpoint allowed whites to commit violence without guilt. If they saw them as animals, they could treat them as animals. Farmers would separate their livestock babies from the mothers and even sell them, feel no remorse. By seeing the Indians as subhuman, they gave themselves permission to steal Indian children, to be raised as slaves, or to be exploited sexually. Indian women were likewise exploited, bought and sold, or just murdered. Within a 50-year period, perhaps 250,000 Indians were simply exterminated in a state and federal pogrom of genocide. This is even noted in Wikipedia's list of historic genocidal atrocities. Yet very few Californians today are aware of the slaughter. In order to make this into a poem, I conceived of Jack, a white immigrant, coming to California and meeting Jedediah, an experienced mountain man Indian fighter. Perhaps around a campfire, Jack asks Jedediah, "What are the Indians like?" As Jedediah responds, we can see how a template for hate could have been passed on to other people coming to California. It was the big lie of white supremacy that fueled the theft of a homeland and the mass murder of a whole people who had lived peacefully in harmony with their surroundings for perhaps 17,000 years. A true recounting of the history of California has been swept under the rug for generations. I grew up thinking the Indians were the bad guys who killed the innocent whites. Hollywood portrays the big lie in its movies and TV shows. High school history classes are guilty by omission of the true facts. Hate is alive and well today. Asians are currently being persecuted, being killed by crazies, being beaten. Asian women are being knocked down in our streets, kicked in the head by random attackers, yelling racial slurs. And our justice system seems reticent to even call these incidents hate crimes.